A quorum being present, this special town meeting shall now come to order. We have a return of the warrant by Constable Adam Loomis. As required by Massachusetts state law, the Chief of the Fire Department, Scott Duffy, asked that I point out the exits from the auditorium in case of an emergency, which are the two you might have came in on, and plus there is an exit on both sides. Would everyone please stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Thank you. This special town meeting is being videotaped by WRPS. Any of the non-registered voters, I know that I've already talked to them, they're sitting over to my left. I'd like to welcome everyone, and I know everybody's busy this time of year. Thanksgiving's a week away, and I appreciate that you gave up your time tonight to come out here. If you wish to speak on an article, please raise your hand. When I recognize you, please come down to one of the microphones down front and state your name and address before speaking. Each speaker will be allowed up to 5 minutes when speaking on an article which is being acted upon. No speaker who has previously spoken on the same article will be recognized until all others who wish to speak have had their opportunity. Now I would like to introduce the people on the stage. To my left, Liza Landy, our town clerk. Our Assistant Town Administrator, Courtney Biergard, Town Council Attorney John Clifford, and our Town Accountant, Scott Curtis. I'd also like to mention that Doug Lack, our Town Administrator, is absent, is recuperating from recent back surgery, and hopes to be back to work in another week or two via the computer. Do you have a motion, Mr. Pumphrey?
John Pumphrey, 4 Ice House Lane. Mr. Moderator, make a motion that the first action on each article will be the Finance Committee recommendation.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 1. Will the town vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds the sum of $192,621 to increase the fiscal year 25 Rockland Public School budget as follows, or take any other action relative thereto? The total is there, the increase is over what we voted in May. The additional funding was not included in initial revenue estimates, but is needed to help stabilize the fiscal budget, school department budget. It was requested by the school committee, approved by the school committee, the select board, and the finance committee, and the funding source is state aid. All those in favor of adopting Article 1 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 2, will the town vote to raise and appropriate, borrow, or transfer from available funds a sum of $2,371.25 to correct the fiscal year's salary, 25 salary for the Assistant Town Administrator as follows. The original was $110,378.66. It's been corrected to $112,749.91. This appropriation is necessary to correct the typographic error in the budget requested by the Town Accountant. Approval recommended by the Select Board and the Finance Committee. The funding source is raised and appropriate to take from available funds. All those in favor in adopting Article 2 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 3. Will the town vote to approve and expend from the Community Preservation Fund the sum of $10,728 to pay for expenses related to the preservation and digitalization of the GAR Hall historic documents, or take any other action relative thereto? The emergency, this work needs to be completed as soon as possible to prevent further deterioration in historic documents. It was requested by the Historical Commission and approved by the Historical Commission, Select Board, Community Preservation Committee, and the Finance Committee. The funding source is Community Preservation Act funds under historic preservation. All those in favor of adopting Article 3 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 4, will the town vote to approve and expend from the Community Preservation Fund the sum of $17,600 to construct Phase 3 improvements at the historic Tramp House on Spring Street, or take any other action relative thereto? The emergency, this work needs to be completed as soon as possible to prevent further deterioration in this historic structure. Requested by the Historical Commission, also approved by the Select Board, Historical Commission, Community Preservation Committee, and Finance Committee. The funding source is the Community Preservation Act funds, the historic preservation. All those in favor of adopting Article number 4 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article 5, will the town vote to approve and expend from the Community Preservation Fund the sum of $60,000 for restoring historic headstones at the Old Town Cemetery located at 0 Liberty Street, Assessors Map 29, Parcel 106, or take any other action relative thereto? The emergency, this work needs to be completed as soon as possible to prevent further deterioration in this historic cemetery. Requested by the Historical Commission, approval recommended by the Select Board, Historical Commission, Community Preservation Committee, and the Finance Committee. The funding source, the Community Preservation Act funds, $20,000 from historic preservation and $40,000 from the CPA fund balance reserve. All those in favor of adopting Article 5 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 6, will the town vote to approve and expend from the Community Preservation Fund the sum of $75,000 to supplement prior funding to construct an ADA-compliant park area located on the Rockland Rail Trail in the vicinity of Union Square on town-owned land abutting the dental elements along the rail trail, which used to be the Dunkin' Donuts, or take any other action relative thereto. This project has been underway and the additional funds are needed to properly complete the project. It was requested by the Highway Superintendent, approved by the Finance Committee and Capital Planning Committee, and the source is the CPA Fund Balance Reserve. All those in favor of adopting Article 6 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 7, this is going to come from a stabilization account in the water capital stabilization. I need a 2/3 vote. I would like to get a unanimous. Will the town vote to authorize the water commissioners to take from the water capital stabilization fund balance the sum of $100,000 for the purpose of making generator repairs or take any other action relative thereto? The emergency, this work needs to be done as soon as possible to ensure the continued operations of the joint waterworks during power outages, which is on Hingham Street. Requested by the Abington-Rockland Joint Board of Water Commissioners, approved by the Capital Planning Committee and Finance Committee. Funding from the water capital stabilization. All those in favor of adopting Article 7 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's unanimous. Article number 8, will the town vote to increase the revolving fund spending limits for the fiscal year 2025 pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as amended for the following purposes, authorized to expend the amounts shown below or take any other action relative thereto? This is the sewer department for sewer remediation for application fees. The use of the fund is for remediation for $500,000, and for sewer I&I, which is inspection of the pipes that they've been doing recently, application fees, and $500,000. This change is needed for the sewer department to continue to make needed repairs. It was requested by the Board of Sewer Commissioners. Approval recommended by the Board of Sewer Commissioners and the Finance Committee, and the funding source is sewer remediation fees. All those in favor of adopting Article 8 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 9. Will the town vote to approve the amended South Shore Regional Vocational School District Regional Agreement, which is on file in the town clerk's office, or take any other action relative thereto. The explanation: the regional agreement amendment will change how each town's share of debt will be calculated to allow for changes in student enrollment over time. The current formula fixes a town's debt share for the life of the borrowing. With approval of this amendment, a town's debt share will adjust based on a 4-year rolling average of student enrollment. The town of Marshfield will have its own debt share adjusted annually until it has comparable enrollment history and then transition to a 4-year rolling average like the other towns. This approval has been requested by the South Shore Regional Vocational School Committee so that the update can be implemented prior to the issuance of any new debt. Requested by the South Shore Regional Vocational School Committee, approved by the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and there is no funding source needed for this. All those in favor of adopting Article 9 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Article number 10, I also need a 2/3 vote, and we'll try for unanimous. Will the town vote to take from available funds the sum of $1,000 to pay for the fiscal year 25 Plymouth County outreach dues for the Rockland Police Department's participation in this program, or take any other action relative thereto? This will authorize the payment for the fiscal year 25 invoice, which cannot wait until the next annual town meeting in the spring. Requested by the police chief, approval recommended by the Select Board and Finance Committee, and the funding sources from the opioid Special Purpose Stabilization Fund. All those in favor of adopting Article 10 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you. Article number 11. Will the town vote to amend Article 34 from the May 6, 2024 annual town meeting, which authorized the Select Board to enter into a lease of a private commercial space for the Recreation Department's community center at such terms as they deem appropriate, and authorized the transfer of $500,000 from free cash to fund equipment and capital improvements for said lease space to be used. This is going to be used to relocate the Recreation Department's community center and school department daycare program at the R. Stewart Eston School on Summer Street, or take any other action relative thereto. These funds need to be reauthorized now so that planning work can be done as soon as possible. It was requested by the Select Board, approval recommended by the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and the funding sources prior free cash certification from last spring. Before I take the vote, I want to really thank all the people that made an effort tonight to show up and we could get this business done. We couldn't have done it without you, and it's we have a lot of registered voters, and you 150, maybe 152, 153 came out and helped the town and helped get town business done. Thank you. I appreciate it. All those in favor of adopting Article number 11 signify with the show of hands. All those opposed, that's a vote. Do I have a motion? Motion to dissolve the meeting in a second. All those in favor? Thank you. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.